I think in business, all the yeses end up costing you a lot more than you realize. Tanner, can you ever think of a time that you said yes to something that it ended up costing you way more than you expected, be it time with the family, business, real estate deal, something like that?
No, I'm sure. I'm sure it happens all the time. I mean, if what you when you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else, then there's probably many times that I've sacrificed time with the family for business or for a deal.
Yeah. So I completely agree. And I think you said it perfectly. I always say that to my wife is every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So it could be a text message like in the middle of dinner and you answer that text back, you're saying no to your family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just as a example.
No, that's a perfect example.
And I think in business, all the yeses end up costing you a lot more than you realize. We've talked about focusing on revenue driving activities before, and every time you say yes to something that takes you away from a revenue driving activity, you're setting your business back potentially quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's another conversation we had with our business coach, and said you really need to define, this is before taking on the first sale, define what you don't do. And for my wife, she's a certified health coach, and she's really starting to ramp up her health coaching because, after getting in a car accident, she realized how important it is, to implement health into everything else that we're doing, and how being a health coach is not an occupation for her. It's like, I don't want to say her personality, but it's something that it needs to be constant. She's always acting in a way of being more healthy and helping others be more healthy. And so he encouraged her to define what is it that you don't take on, and had a colleague that, has a family member with a health condition. And my wife was like, oh yeah, that you need a medical professional for that. Like I'm not focusing on that. And it was a light switch moment of, that is one of the things on my list that I don't do. Like I'm not qualified to handle people with memory care or with, I don't want to say cancerous issues, but there's many things that are just not in her bucket. And so I think in real estate, especially early on, when you're a new agent or a new investor, you say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, if there's someone
you
that's
feel like
interested,
you're missing out on an opportunity.
Exactly.
But are you?
Right. And that's part, I think that's part of the growing pains is you kind of got to say yes to everything, because you never know, you won't know what you're good at and not good at until you do. But once you mature and become more efficient, you realize that if I say yes to helping someone put their restaurant somewhere, like as a commercial broker, that's taking me away from something that I'm very familiar with, which is multifamily. And I can help someone buy 3 apartment buildings in the time it takes me to figure out this restaurant transaction. And so the early mindset is, if I say no to this restaurant client, I'm losing out on revenue. But when you start to understand opportunity cost, I'm saying no to these things that are my highest and best use that I can probably generate 3 times more money. So I think that early on, it might be taking on as much as you can and then trimming off the things that you're not good at.
Yeah, I think saying yes to something feels good in the moment, but it can be dangerous to your family, your life. Says someone calls you up, hey, we're going to grab a cigar and some drinks at the bar. It's easy to say yes to that, but I haven't worked out yet today, and so like you're exchanging one thing for something else.
Yeah, even going out on a Friday night. You go out on a Friday night and get buck wild and have a bunch of drinks. So you're saying yes to that, but you're saying no to having a good morning on Saturday.
That's a very good point. The older I get, the
longer the recovery is.
Well, the less drinks it takes to get to that point. Like used to be quite a few, and now it's like I don't even know if I want one.
Yeah.
But it kind of brings up. It kind of makes you feel guilty sometimes, like if you say no to somebody, especially starting out early. I know for me, I get a open house or investors walk through on this property, I was like trying to say yes to everything. And reality, like, how many hours was I wasting on some of them? You know,
Right.
obviously you have the connections that you can make, but after you hit a few of them up, is it really worth it anymore?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the flip properties that we've done, and, you know, saying yes to those things where it takes up 2 years of our life, a year of our life, whatever. It's like I'm saying yes to that, and I'm saying no to everything that I could be spending my time doing in the meantime. So I think it's important to calibrate what you should be saying yes to.
I think when you start out, it's about identity, and your alignment is off of where you want to be and who you're trying to identify as.
Right.
Like if you're a new real estate investor, you're trying to identify as a real estate investor. So you're trying to show up to those walkthroughs. And, but that might not be the best thing for you. Maybe sitting at home and reading a book and finding out how to underwrite a deal or writing those 5 deals a day. Like that's probably better aligned with your long-term goals.
And the opposite is also true. Maybe you're sitting at home doing all the education, but nobody ever got rich by learning, right? And so maybe it means that you need to say no to the book for the night and go out to the networking event and meet people. I think there is no this is the right way.
Right.
It's discerning which is the right way for you.
Yeah. So what best aligns with your goals or the season that you're in, at least?
And identifying is the efforts that I'm putting out right now getting me to that goal. Because we talked previously about doing the boring thing long enough, but there's also truth to doing the wrong thing for too long and not pivoting when it's time to pivot, you know? And so I think if you do the wrong thing for too long, sometimes there isn't fruits at the end of that.
Yeah. I think saying yes to everything can cost you a lot more than saying no to some things. I'll use you as an example. When you started getting more into commercial, you tried to get me to go down that rabbit hole with you, like, office or retail or, all these, I'm just saying, like they have all these other things. I was like, I am a multifamily investor. I own an industrial building now, but that was part of the,
maybe it was a seed I planted.
Like I see value in it, but for me, like I don't know anything about it. Like if I wasn't a tenant in the building that I bought, like it would be totally different because it was a total different learning curve. Like if you have a question about flex space or something like that, I am not the investor to go to and ask questions. Like I just don't know. But I've said no to that for years, and I'm just focused on multifamily. Right. And that's kind of my. I feel safer there.
And I completely understand that. And for me, I like to go an inch deep and a mile wide until I find a topic that I really enjoy, and then I can go a mile deep on that one topic. And during that learning experience of me focusing more on the commercial side, I really found that the boxes that multifamily was no longer checking for me, I could find in flex properties. And so I sharing that, and because I've gone that inch deep, mile wide, now I can dive in on flex space and share the knowledge that I've learned in this area. And so not to say that this is the bee's knees and it always works and it's better than multifamily. It's just, it serves a different purpose at a different time.
Yeah. I mean, you have different arrows in your quiver, if I said that correctly. Yeah. But it is, I'm not saying that you can never pivot or anything like that, but it is about saying, it's about alignment, making sure you're saying yes to things that align with where you're going and not just saying yes across the board.
Right. And the person who sticks to multifamily and only ever does multifamily, doesn't touch a flex property, they might be way more successful than I am. But it's all a personalized risk, and diversity to me is important because not only am I trying to scale and build, I'm trying to protect. So if I can protect my wealth by diversifying more, then that serves my goal because I have identified that North Star as protection.
Yeah. I mean, I guess kind of sum it up in a couple words. Saying yes to everything costs you a lot more than you realize. It's
well, this whole topic is opportunity cost.
It is. I mean, that's a great way to explain it, is opportunity cost. And not letting one opportunity cost you another, and kind of being able to discern. I mean, it comes back to discernment. Like I feel like I preach or every podcast I mention it, but like having your North Star, and if it doesn't align with that, then you say no.
Right. And if we look at two scenarios, if I say I'm going out every Friday on a date night with my wife, and the sacrifice for that is potential revenue that I could be generating to better provide, how do you decide whether the date night is more important than the revenue? And
I would ask it a different way. You go on a date with your wife every Friday. You've been doing it for 26 weeks. This is the 27th week. And this big networking event comes up. And there's an opportunity for revenue. Where do you decide?
right.
You know, like, where's your values line up with, no, this is my family time, my one-on-one time with the wife, and that's the most important thing to me right now. And I think it's hard with society nowadays. Like, my kids play semi-competitive soccer, and they have stuff all the time. We're constantly, and so it's like, I would love to say every Friday night we have this between the wife and I, but, or even just a family, like, hey, we'll watch a family movie. But every soccer tournament, every practice, all these things are us saying no to family time. And it's, I don't know what's good, bad, or indifferent.
No, and I think the answer to the question is, what is the North Star there? If the North Star is to be supportive parents, then that North Star is more important than sacrificing being a good parent for the sake of a date night or selfish desires to want to do something with your wife. Like that, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just the timing is different, because soccer is not year round for everyone. Like, sometimes it is, but I think that there's ways to have your cake and eat it too. And when we're using revenue and quality time as the two opposites, it's a little bit easier to discern, because in your scenario, it's date night versus parenting. Those things are, I think, equally important.
Well, I mean, I'll do it towards the plumbing business. Like, it's service versus new construction. Like, how do you say yes to one or say no to another? Because you only have so much money coming in initially. You can only hire so many people. So every time I say yes to a new construction project, I got to say no to being able to service.
But do they bring in the same amount of revenue?
Well, no, and that's kind of where you.
So it's what you're measuring, and that goes back to what we were talking about. Is what you're saying yes to is based on what you're measuring, and if what you're measuring is the income that it produces, or maybe it's the income per hour, or the consistency, or maybe it's that you can keep 5 of your guys fully engaged for 6 months on a development project, and the security of knowing that you have income to sustain their pay for 6 months is more important than the sporadic service jobs that may or may not come in. And I think that goes to when you were talking about date night versus a networking event. I'm very confident that I can turn a networking event into revenue. But if I'm taking every Friday off for the potential to make more money, I may or may not make more money. But if that call comes in, I need to be ready for it. That I think changes the answer significantly.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to discern the two. And especially, I mean, I would say it's probably even harder for you than that you and your wife were in similar aligning businesses. And so it's like y'all work together. So when that network event comes up, y'all both get the invite. And so it's easier to skip out on family time or one-on-one time, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and one of the examples in the trucking business is like it's a venture. It is not like I don't have my identity as I am a trucker and this is all I do. It's a thing that I'm doing right now. And because my North Star is being a provider, then I'm going to do this so long as it's serving that purpose. And if it means I have to be gone for a week or two here and there, then it's serving my end goal of being a provider. And I'm sacrificing time with the family and being home every day for dinners, but I'm able to pay the bills without stress. And so talking to our business coach about how long do I need to, like, what kind of checks and balances can I put in place? Because that's a hamster wheel. I could go and drive 52 weeks a year, never see my family, and always have money in the account. So how do I balance that versus I'm never going to drive and I'm only going to hire everything out? Well, the big thing is that when I have balloon payments or I have, big checks that I'm going to have to write, once I have enough in the coffers to where that's not a surprise, then I can let off the throttle and pivot and systematize more. And so that was kind of became a North Star, is I'm going to go full pedal or foot on the gas until I get enough saved up to where there's no surprises in the business. And that's building my reserves to X dollar amount. It's pulling out enough cash flow to provide for my family. And then I can let off a little bit. So if I didn't define what that looked like, then I could just be, like I said, 52 weeks a year around the clock, working, work, and until you croak.
Yeah. So I think what we're getting at here is, in order to have freedom in life, you have to have boundaries and bumpers, like to filter things out. And if you don't have that, your spiritual life, your family life, your business life, they all become disjointed, if you will. Mm-hmm. And you don't know where one begins and the other one ends. And by just saying yes to everything, you're really end up saying no to everything else. Because if I'm just focusing on business right now and not taking care of my spiritual life or not taking care of my health or not taking care of my family, you're just kind of throwing everything by the wayside.
It's all for naught, right?
It's all for naught, yeah. So
and I think that it's also important to not obsess over opportunity cost too much. Like that's
easy to do, is to obsess over it.
And when you make a decision and you commit to it, you need to be at peace with what you're missing out on.
Short, you need to be the goldfish. Just forget about it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
8 seconds later, I've already forgotten about it and moved on.
Right. And for example, the trucking is fresh and it's what I'm spending a lot of my time on. So that's why it comes to mind. I did a team drive with one of the drivers, and this is part of me getting to know him, learning the processes that he has, and be able to take what he does just naturally, second nature, and turn it into an SOP. That was the whole point of me doing this. We were up in Seattle, and there was no loads coming in. So we were stuck. We just sat, parked, waited for something good to come in. Didn't see anything, but we saw a lot coming out of the Reno, Nevada area. So we said, okay, so we can drive down to Reno and get something that's going to bring us back home to Omaha. So we set out, started, we were about 4 hours headed down to Reno and saw something pop up in Seattle that was paying higher rates than anything we had seen, but it came at the end of the workday. Like loads typically stop around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This came in at like 4:52. And we were beating ourselves up because it went from Seattle to Waterloo, Nebraska, which would have gotten us all the way home. Good rate, everything. So that opportunity cost was like, oh man, I'm kicking myself, because had we just stayed there longer, we would have had a load that got us directly back. But where I had to make peace with it is I had no idea of knowing that was going to come in. Like that's a gamble. If I knew for a fact, if you wait until 4, well, then there's no risk involved, right? So being at peace with the fact that, yeah, I made a decision, and good, bad, or indifferent, I got to stick to that. Because it got us home, it got us paid, we made profit, it worked out. It could have worked out better, but there is constantly opportunity cost of what you missed out on.
Yeah, I wrote down, it's not about rejection, it's about protection. Mm-hmm. So you're not rejecting anything, you're protecting what is most important to you.
Right.
Going back to the dates or spiritual life or something, like you're protecting those things that you're aligned with at that season. Mm-hmm. So we identified that you should say no to some things. when it comes down to a networking event that someone invites you to, or some kind of opportunity that someone would perceive that you should say yes to, but you know that it doesn't align with where you are right now and you need to say no, what are some tactical, practical ways that you can say no without burning any bridges?
Well, I think the more involved in business and the more successful you get, the more opportunities there are. And you cannot physically say yes to everything. I can't go to a mastermind in Atlanta and also be at a conference in Denver. Like it's not possible. So how do you define that? And a lot of it, I think my most important North Star is my relationship with my wife. And so I consult with her constantly of what do you think we should do? Is there a way that we can both go to these, or one of us go separately, or maybe it's more important for both of us to go to one of them, or maybe we don't go to either and we stay home, we take the kids on vacation. Like having that communication, I think is extremely important because I don't have all the right answers and I don't claim to either. Nor do I think my wife has all the right answers, but I think combined we can make a decision that we can both be at peace with.
Yeah, it's I think you kind of alluded to it. You can say, I'm fully committed right now. Like my time's full. I can't commit to anything else. Mm-hmm. And that commitment doesn't have to be like a hard and fast commitment. Like I have a date at 7:00 on Friday night with my wife, but it could just be that flexible thing. I mean, I'm not trying to say lie to people, but
I have prior commitments.
I have prior commitment, like just kind of loosey, saying no without being like, no, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't align with my vision right now.
I think a lot of it too is in the last 5 or 10 years, I just stopped caring what other people think. It's like if someone invites me to something and they're upset because I didn't go, like, and they don't understand that I'm with my family, then it's not.
I don't even mean it from a family standpoint though either. Like, we'll go back to the analogy of multifamily versus flex space. Like just because I'm saying no to flex space now doesn't mean I want to say no to flex space 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. So how do you respectfully say, no, Tanner, I don't want to learn about flex space right now. It's not the season I'm in, but maybe on later down the road. How do you not burn that bridge, that opportunity cost down the road? I guess this.
I mean, the way that you handled it was still receptive. Like you still heard it out and like, and it wasn't like I was like, hey, come buy this. Like, let's do it. Let's do this project together. It was just sharing knowledge about what I'm learning about this stuff. And you received it and said, yeah, it sounds interesting. I'll have to look into it more. Like that was it.
Yeah.
And granted, I still might bring it up all the time because it's something I'm excited about and I'm teaching, sharing the knowledge about, but it wasn't like if there's an investment opportunity and you had zero knowledge about it at all, you should say no.
Yep.
Like that is the right answer.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. Like, no, I don't know enough about it. And that's the biggest thing with real estate. Like I would never tell somebody, go buy a rental property without learning anything about it, without having any contacts or anything like that. Like you should say no to that. But being ignorant, when something has been brought to your attention, being ignorant about it 6 months from now probably isn't a good way to handle it either.
Yeah, but I think that the recovery time and people talk about return profiles, especially financial advisors. They love to talk about like, oh, if you invest in this in 6% compound per year, $1,000 a month will be worth $600,000 in 20 years and all that stuff. If it only ever goes up. So an investment opportunity, if it only ever appreciates, yeah, will be great. But if you make one bad decision and cut your capital in half, how long does it take to recover from that? To even get back to break even, probably 3 years. You can lose that money in one deal, and then it takes you 3 to 5 years to make it back. So is the people-pleasing side of you of just wanting to say yes to something worth sacrificing the next 3 to 5 years of your life just to get back to break even? And I think that my North Star is the preservation of capital. So I don't care about the people pleasing. I'd rather say no. And also the psychologically, no is a protective word. Like if you don't understand something, you should say no until you understand it.
Okay, Chris Voss.
Exactly.
That's where you stole that from.
Absolutely. So. It's hanging on my wall. I talked to my kids about that yesterday because
what do you mean hanging on your wall? Like
I have a poster of it on my wall, like behind my desk, where it's like his practices. And my kids were talking about, it was something like ice cream or something. And I was, oh no, my daughter's building a candle company and she has one product, like different scents. I was going to say flavors, but I don't recommend eating
Baskin Robbins.
Yeah. and so she has multiple options, but I said, well, what if for every candle scent you offer different sizes or different materials or whatever? Because then you're giving optionality. And explained it like the way I explained it to them is if you go to your mom and say, hey mom, can I have ice cream? Her options are yes or no. But if you go, hey mom, would you rather have vanilla or chocolate ice cream? The options you're providing are one or two, not yes or no. And they're still not really good at executing it. They tried it last night. It didn't work. But just explaining to them that when you leave the door open for a no, it's more times than not. I don't know what the statistic is. Maybe it's 70% of the time. Maybe it's 80% of the time. It's going to be a no until someone can fully commit to a yes.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but my wife is a no-oriented person. Like her answer is like default no. Mm-hmm. So I told my daughter, she'd always come, hey mom, is it, like, can I go to so-and-so's house? She'd be like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, Alyssa, what you have to do is say, hey, mom, is it a big deal if I go to this person's house?
Or would you be opposed?
Would you be opposed if I go to this person's house? Mm-hmm. Or something along those lines. Let her be, to your point, be protected by the word no. Mm-hmm. But you still get what you want.
Yeah. So. I use that constantly. Would you be opposed to this? And oh, no, I'm not opposed to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can you say no without offending somebody, I guess, as far as, because people do get upset, I think. Like, hey, do you want to come to this networking event with me? Like, oh, no, I'm good. Like, how do you bridge that? Say you don't even have something else, but it just doesn't align with who you want to be or where you want to go. Like, see, you weren't in business and you just wanted to stick to real estate. And I invite you to a Better Business Bureau or a Chamber of Commerce meeting that doesn't align with where you're trying to go. Mm-hmm. How do you say no respectfully without tearing the relationship, I guess, if you will? Because I do find that people get upset.
Offended.
Yeah. Offended.
I don't know. I'm probably not the best at that. If I don't want to go, I'm just going to say no. I don't want to go.
You just rip the Band-Aid off and be done.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. Yeah, I think there's probably a more tactful way of going about it. And I'm sure if I thought hard enough, I could think of situations where I respectfully declined, but more often than not, it's just, hey, there's this thing going on this week, and do you want to go? And it'd be like, yeah, I'll let you know. I'll talk, or I'll talk to my wife. Yeah,
so you blame somebody else.
Yeah, probably. But
yeah.
No,
one thing I've heard is like, I'm not in the season for that right now. I really appreciate the offer, but I'm not in the season for that right now. So I think it's honest and it's straightforward. Like, hey, I appreciate the offer. In the future, if you want to give me more offers, I'm more than willing to listen to them.
Yeah, I think I can. There's definitely times where I've been invited to things and I'll say, I'll check my calendar and get back to you. And that gives me the separation to make a decision without being on the spot. And I don't like high pressure tactics. Like, I'm going to make a decision. And if it's a high pressure, then I will default to that no. But when I check back and if it doesn't work out, then I'll say, I don't think I can make that work this week, but I really appreciate the offer. Let me know next time, and maybe that's happened 3, 4, 5 times and I don't get invited anymore, but I'm still breathing. So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. And I guess the point of my question is saying no respectfully, but cultivating the relationship at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And I mean, if someone invites me to coffee or to lunch or something like that and it doesn't work, then if I have to say no, I'll probably recommend a solution.
And that's no, I can't go here, but here's 3 other opportunities for me to be able to go. So I think that's a really good way to bridge that. So I mean, kind of to wrap this up, as far as the art of saying no, if you will. I mean, we talked about kind of how why yes feels good, but saying no a lot of times matters more. We talked about kind of what it's costing you in the grand scheme of things, saying yes to everything. I mean, what else we talk about?
Well, what you measure matters.
Yeah.
I mean, the understanding there's opportunity cost to every decision, and the more successful you are, the more options there are, and so the more you're going to have to say no to. Understanding that no is a protective word, and defaulting to no isn't always the best thing. Yeah. How you are asking people and inviting them.
How do you ask somebody so they can feel protected by the no,
right,
but still get what you want?
Yeah.
So,
but I think the most important is what you're measuring. Is there is no right and wrong answers in business, in life, and whatever. I mean, yeah, you should not go steal. That would be a bad opportunity cost, because then you're giving away the next 5 years of your life in a prison cell. But knowing that in the daily decision making matrix, there won't always be a good and a bad decision, and what you choose, you have to commit to and be at peace with what you're losing out on.
Absolutely. So, well, I think that pretty much summarizes everything we talked about today. I do want to end with this one question I wrote down. What's one thing you know that you need to say no to this week so that you can say yes to something that really matters? And on that,